your heart. You know what? I'm going to throw it out there. Maybe God's been telling you, what? I want to serve the Lord in a deeper way. Maybe God's calling some of you to the mission field. What? I'm too old. Really? Who said too old? Granny Holdeman was a missionary to Haiti for a number of years. You know when she left the United States? In her 60s. There's something. Maybe God's just saying, and you've kind of written it off, and it's like, nah, I'm not going to do that. That's too preposterous. Ruth could have said that. That's too preposterous. No. Maybe God's calling you to a greater depth of faith in Him. I don't know. I'm not trying to put anything in your head. I'm just saying, you know what? That's God's job. So we see she had a binding love and devotion to the one who asked her to do hard things. That kind of goes along with that, doesn't it? Well, let's notice the next thing about this, some parallels, okay? The next thing I'd like to notice is this. True faith results in tangible action. She did it all. And under that, true faith will do difficult actions. James tells us to be doers of the word and not hearers only. You know what? We can become great hearers to the point where we could win every Bible quiz. We know it. Those of us who've been saved for a long time, raised up in church, we know this. You don't have to tell me. Pastor, in fact, you really haven't said anything within the last 10 years that I didn't already know. Good. Otherwise, I'd be preaching something new, and that's not good. Maybe a new insights, maybe something you never thought about, but the truth is, we know this. So how about doing it now? When are we going to do this? When are you going to do it? Well, the truth is we can believe our own excuses, and we can procrastinate, and we can do all these things. But she did it. According to verse number 6, she did it all. Next thing, true faith trusts God for the outcome of our actions. Here, how do they know what to think? Well, they've kind of read Boaz as being a wonderful, gentle kind of person who's been very generous to them. And so guess what? We're just going to seize the moment. Okay, let's seize the moment. But they could have said, and you know what? Truth be known, I have to chuckle because if we kind of insert ourselves in there, it becomes kind of humorous. At least I know me. It'd be like, I don't know, maybe he's good on the outside. Maybe he's just putting on a show for the neighbors. How do we know this guy? Well, he's a family member, but I don't know if I'm going to do this. Well, first, I don't think they had much choice. That kind of helps things. Sometimes God puts us in positions where we don't have much choice. I'm thankful for that in some respects, aren't you? I'm too dumb to make some decisions. I hate to say that. The only reason I say that is because I believe that about you too. Okay, there I said it. Yeah, look, we would have gone around every single corner we could until we did it, if we did it. Because we don't trust God for the outcome. We don't obey because maybe we're scared of what might happen, or maybe we won't like what happens. We have to remember this about outcomes. We aren't in control of what others do, but God is. And it's kind of interesting that in verses 7 and 8, Boaz did exactly what Naomi said he was going to do. Talk about being a predictable man, yeah? Now, my brother has this thing. He likes Louis L'Amour. Have you ever heard of Louis L'Amour, cowboy writer? He says, my brother says, if you're watching this, Phil, all due respect. He says, I like Louis L'Amour because he's just like me, shallow and predictable. So notice here, verse 7, and after Boaz had eaten and drunk and his heart was cheerful, he went down to lay lay down at the end of the heap of grain, and she came softly and uncovered his feet and lay down. Now it happened at midnight when the man was startled. He turned himself, and there was a woman lying at his feet. It happened exactly like she said it would. Now what about the outcome? That's what we're trusting. Proverbs chapter 16, verse 9 says this: a man's heart plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps. We can plan it. You know, over the years as a pastor, I've heard this time and time again. I haven't heard it recently. I haven't heard it in quite a while. But people have said to me, you know, Pastor, I'll tell you what, I have faith, but here's the problem. I just am not in control of anything. It's like, duh. That's what faith is. We want to micromanage our lives. We get this idea that somehow if we make our own plans, we're safe. And there's nothing wrong with making plans. We should. But I mean trusting in them, that everything will go accordingly. Huh? Isn't that true? Of course it's true. Well, after I retire, I'm going to do this, or after I do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. And that's okay. But that ain't the way it always happens, right? Now, I only use the word ain't when I'm making a point here. That ain't the way it happens. We get so self-secure. And when life kind of unravels, then it's like, what? We need to obey God and trust Him for the outcome. Commit your work, Proverbs 16:3 says, to the Lord, and your plans will be established. Now there's a third characteristic here, and that's in verses 8 and 9, that's humility. And she had a humble self-estimation. Notice in verses 8 and 9, he says he was startled in verse number 9, who are you? And then she answered. She said, I am Ruth, your maidservant. Take your maidservant under your wing, for you are a close relative. First thing, I'm your maidservant. She identifies herself as a lowly slave. I am the lowest on the totem pole that you can be. I'm seeking redemption. And I'm just, you know, let me make a parallel. In order for us to come to the Redeemer, we really need to make ourselves low. There's no room for pride. He knows. He already knows what you are. So why not just be honest with it and come to Him and say, you know something, O Lord, O Redeemer, I am just a sinner who deserves eternal hell. And I'm coming to you because I have nothing. There is no way I can earn this. There is no way I deserve this. So here I am, Redeemer. Wow. You know, the same is true for Christians. When we come to our Redeemer who's already redeemed us, we can be so proud sometimes, can't we? Pride. You struggle with pride? No. Okay. We need to talk. Because we all do. You know, just the other day, I don't think of myself as a proud person, but you know what? Man, I'm out and about, and God just going, that's pride. That's pride. Okay, that's okay. Next thing, you know what? That's pride. Oh. Thing today I want to show you. That's pride. And I just swept over all. Let's see, there was religion, there was people, there was politics. There you go. Pride in everything. Boom. You know what? I think we need to remember one thing when we come to our Redeemer. We need to humble ourselves. She came. Now it's kind of interesting. Let's take a look real quick she really kind of changed her tune here, her words. She said, I am Ruth. Notice she said, didn't say a maidservant. She said, I am your maidservant. Now before, when she was gleaning, she said, I am not your maidservant. I am not. I'm like, I don't even deserve to be here, and I'm your maidservant, although I'm not. Now she's saying, no, I'm your maidservant. She's proposing, folks. She's saying, look, you have me. And then she said, you are a redeemer. You are a close relative. Now, if you remember, Naomi went to her, and before Ruth went to Boaz, she said, you just go there, show up, uncover his feet, and let him tell you. Well, she kind of went beyond. Maybe because she was scared. That's kind of what I think. She might have been a little afraid. My name is Ruth. I'm your maidservant, and you're a close redeemer. That's why I'm here. And you know what? If she was a good girl, that probably would be it. Because in verse number 10, when he accepts her, he says, don't be afraid. I'll do what you ask me to do. Verse number 11. So she might have been afraid. At least from the text, there's a little hint that she was. And so we see first a humble estimation and then a humble request for redemption. She says, spread your wings. You are a redeemer. She proposed marriage to him. I'm claiming you as my close relative, that you would buy my property and take me as your wife and raise up children in behalf of your dead relative's name. She also was admitting poverty and the need to the one who could help her. Humble request. Listen, no one ever comes to the Redeemer with pride in their heart. Now, Lord, I know you died on the cross for everybody else, but if you get me, you get a pretty good prize. Isn't that stupid just to think about it? How many of us think we're doing God a favor by just merely showing up? Just by, No, there has to be. You have to come to God with a humble heart. And she really illustrates that very well, humility. Well, there's a third thing I'd like to talk about, and that is now we're looking at Boaz's response. And I see in him integrity. Integrity. God uses people of integrity. Notice the verses 9 and following, and he says, who are you? And she said, I am Ruth, your maidservant. Take your maidservant under your wing, for you are a relative. Now, look, the first thing I'd like to notice about this, but here's a couple things. I went to Webster's 1828 dictionary. That's online. Noah Webster, I believe, was a good Christian man. And if you look up words, just words in Noah Webster's 1828 dictionary, you're going to see way different definitions than our modern dictionary. They're going to be more influenced by Christian influence, like the Bible. And so I went online, Noah Webster's 1828 dictionary, okay? And he says this. And think about this. Would this be in any modern definition of integrity? I don't think so. He says the entire unimpaired state of anything, particularly of the mind, moral soundness or purity, incorruptness, uprightness, honesty. Integrity comprehends the moral character, but has a special reference to uprightness in mutual dealings, transfers of property and agencies for others. Would you hear that in the modern definition? Probably not. Integrity. Something we all need to always work on. Okay? Every one of us. It's lining up my words with my life. It's a matter of character, of being true. Not putting on a show or a face when you come to church, but being true and right. Will Rogers, this writer, actor, and speaker of yesteryear, said this. He said, "Live so that you won't be ashamed to sell the family parrot to the town gossip." I think Boaz was a man of character and integrity. How is that? Well, first, it's shown by purity, obviously. We see, first of all, a pure reaction. Who are you? What are you doing here? He was shocked to see the presence of a woman in such a place and such a time. Now, I don't want us to really think what we shouldn't think, but how many men would have reacted like that? Men of the day, when everybody did what was right in their own eyes. How many men would have just bristled that a woman was there? I have to say, probably not. They would probably gone the other way. They would respond in such a way that revealed their heart and their lusts. Now, Boaz, he was a man of integrity, and I think even by that reaction. So we see here, first of all, a pure response. After that, in verse number 10, "Blessed are you of the Lord, my daughter, for you have shown more kindness at the end than at the beginning. And you did not go after young men, whether poor or rich." He was basically using, if you read in the Bible, when somebody uses a contrast, such as poor or rich, basically that's called a merism, and that's the idea of all. Poor or rich and everybody in between. Young or old, everybody in between. You haven't gone for anybody else when you could have. Blessed are you. Now, he blessed her in the name of Yahweh. Now, why is that so important? Well, here they are, out in the dark, all by themselves, and he brings up the Lord. Maybe he lived in the presence of the Lord. Maybe he had this understanding, and by everything that he did, he knew God was with him. You remember how he greeted his his field hands? Remember that? "Hey, the Lord bless you." Maybe this was a pattern for this righteous man, that he understood that God was with him always. You know what, men? That's the kind of men we need to be. You know what? Look, the world is just dying to see godly men of integrity. Not perfect, but men who live in such a way, they live in the presence of God. Whether it's out in the field with the gleaners during the bright, hot, sunny day, or at night in a compromising presence of a woman. There it is. There's integrity, and he addressed her in a pure way. He called her my daughter, and no doubt he was older than she. It wasn't that uncommon for an older man to marry a younger woman. But it was a term of purity, a term of protection. He had here moral character. Moral character, someone said, D.L. Moody, is what you are in the dark. Here's a little poem. Fame is a vapor, popularity an accident. Riches take wings, only one thing endures, character. What you are. Dear Abby said this. She's long been gone. I think her daughter's writing for now, and I don't read a column. She said the best index to a person's character is A, how he treats people who can't do him any good, and B, how he treats people who can't fight back. Someone said this, the measure of a man's real character is what he would do if he knew he would never be found out.